Well, hello and welcome to I Love Gay today. And we're in New York today, and it's Pride Month, and New York is a crazy place during Pride Month. And we are here with Diego Gonzalez-Zuniga, or as we know, better known as Diego Downtown. How are you?
Hi, Matt. How are you? So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad because you and I have, stayed in touch and connected, and through all things social media for so long. And so it's great to finally, even virtually, put a face to the name in that sense.
Yeah, always. It's always good just to obviously see people, even if it is virtually, because, people are always behind their profiles and personalities. So it's always good to connect with people virtually or in person. So it's great.
I
Great to meet you.
I love it. But no, you're very much out there, and I've seen your posts over the years, and I mean you range from Instagram to Twitter to TikTok and even LinkedIn, but you're kind of all across the board on social media, and you've really kind of kept yourself out there when it comes to your image and blogging and so forth. But yeah, how did you get started with all that?
Oh gosh, how much time do you have? So it really started honestly back in the blogging days. I mean, honestly, I started a website. I wanted to figure out a way to kind of just blog my day. Journal entries. What am I doing? And then that was kind of when Instagram kind of started. And then really, it's just as I'm sure you've noticed, I live a very colorful and vibrant life. So I love to explore wherever I'm currently living, the cities, what's going on, and so really it was just a great way to showcase my life and my lifestyle and what I'm doing. I think there's no better way to know your surroundings than to explore them. So I think for me it just kind of naturally grew. And honestly, the Diego downtown it really started because I wanted my social presence to be have a city feel to it, and obviously every city has a downtown. So
Yeah.
I wanted to, regardless of where I was or what city I was in, I wanted to still have that city feel. So and now it's kind of evolved. Honestly, it's grown. I don't think I 10 years ago, I don't think I ever would have told you that this is what I was going to be doing or it was going to be a part-time work for me. But I love doing it. Again, to me, it's really natural. It's super organic, and it kind of grew on a life of its own.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. I mean, you started kind of before Instagram was necessarily the place to be on the, especially on the visual side. But
Yeah.
you started more in the blog as a blogger, but it also seems that I keep saying visual because I think your the work you do is extremely visual and looks
Yeah.
fantastic.
Thank
But you
you.
really weave in a lot of fashion and into in lifestyle into it, and so that seems to be an area of strong interest to you.
Yeah, I think it's I want to showcase not just what I'm doing, but also just what I'm wearing. I think there's so much to be said about exploration and discoverability of brands, what we're doing. I think we all go to social media nowadays to, explore new music, new brands, things that are happening, right? So for me, it's really about why gatekeep, right? Like why hold all of that, close chested? Why not just
Yeah.
share that with a wider community, And I've even now started, we were just talking about earlier, going into men's mental health issues, wellness, really speaking about LGBT issues because, I got to a point where I don't want my Instagram and social channels to become this like only, channel where I'm doing a lot of sponsored collaborations. I also wanted to be able to benefit people because I also want to talk about the real things and the real issues that are also kind of challenging of the community. So that's kind of how it evolved.
Yeah, and you've even been involved, like, if memory serves me right, even with like New York Fashion Week and stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. In the olden the olden days, I called them. But yeah, when New York Fashion Week, yeah, it was a great way for me. I lived in DC at the time, and I
Yeah.
wanted a great way to explore fashion in New York. And what better way to do it than to actually come up to New York Fashion Week and be able to be, in the presence of all these amazing houses and brands, and just be able to network and meet people in the fashion community. And what better city to do it in than New York, right?
Yeah. Oh, no. No, it's funny that one of the things that stood out for me, I've noticed before, but even today when I was going through, it's if somebody asked you, "Are you a content creator? Are you an influencer?" And because those words, but especially in the context that you started out as a blogger, but you use digital creator, you use content creator, you use all these words, but because they pretty much there is no one definition for a lot of the work that folks like you do.
Yeah, no, there really isn't. I think there's definitely a lot of overlap. I also don't, I'm very much about, I don't want to pigeonhole myself into
Yeah.
anything. I think I call myself a creator because I honestly constantly am creating, but then I'm also influencing because, the things that I do, see and wear, people are, constantly asking me about and messaging me. So, I am, influencing, what their purchasing habits are and what they're doing and where they're buying and what brands they're supporting. So
Yeah.
I think it all really kind of goes, hand in hand. And I think I have to kind of, give thanks to my marketing background as well, because I think I wouldn't, again, be where I am today without all of that, marketing expertise and experience.
Yeah, but you leverage that as well then, and you work with clients, kind of as a freelancer now, but working with clients to help them kind of do the same things you're doing.
Yeah, it's honestly just kind of again happened organically. I think I had kind of said to myself, I tried the corporate, the jobs, and I did the 9 to 5s. And I think where I really excel and where I really grow the most is being in these really constant evolving creative spaces where I'm able to work with different clients ranging from like fashion, hospitality, travel, fashion. And so it really helps me exercise my brain and my creative mind, because, if you're only working for one client or one brand, you kind of, things start to kind of get, you have creative block, you start to kind of reach a little bit of like a wall. And so it really keeps me on my toes and it keeps me super engaged. And I honestly love it.
Yeah, but today when I was looking through all your things to kind of do a little stalking to be up to speed here, what I loved is that there was something just a few days ago. I know that last week I have some friends that are here for New York Tech Week, but then I
Mhm.
noticed that you were at the influencer marketing show, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot happening in New York here in the last week. But how was that? Was that something? Was that a good event to go to?
Yeah, yeah. So it was my second year going. I think
Good.
it's always, I again am in the camp of, New York, what better city to be in to network and grow and opportunities and to learn about the creator economy and the influencer industry, which, as I'm sure, no surprise to you, is constantly evolving and changing. And so, for me to even stay competitive and remain relevant and know, what are the trends and things that are happening out there, I think these conferences are really beneficial. And I think, the influencer marketing show was so great because it really helps me connect to brands in person. I think there's no better way to sell yourself than actually speaking to somebody in person, and then just networking with other creators, right? Figuring out who are newer creators. I met a bunch of new creators that just started on Instagram like this year, right? Like
Yeah.
you have all of these new, the new generation of creators that are seeking you and trying to find community, because they don't really, they want all the knowledge, right? They want to soak in all the information. And I think it's been great to be able to help other creators, that are starting out, even from my perspective.
Nice. But when you were there and you're talking about brands, I'm curious how brands, what the conversations were like, because that's the hot topic now, is that brands have kind of taken a back seat to working with the LGBT community starting since last year.
Yeah.
And it's even, I've noticed it impacts influencers as well. And I don't know if you're noticing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely, it's something I've seen decline this year. I think that, the political and just media landscape, we're even seeing this with, online publications, shuttering and things happening, and brands, seeing a lot more scrutiny online from their communities and followers. And so I think it does become really challenging, but I think this is that pivotal time where brands can really almost, kind of cement themselves in saying like, hey, we're not going to be constantly teeter-tottering. We're really going to stand behind our community because, we are a global community. We're not just speaking to one customer. And I think that, it's really, to me, it's all about collaborating with brands. It's really, talking to them about, what could the concepts be? What key messages can we also take away in terms of like marketing, whether it's an experience or a product. And then also, what are we advocating for, right? Like, what is your company actually standing behind, right? Do they have LGBT employees? Are they supporting any kind of organizations or causes? Are they, behind any kind of political agenda? And I get that that's super taboo and a hot topic, but, I think these brands at the end of the day are influencing, right? Like
Yeah.
we are constantly being influenced by social media. We're constantly being influenced by brands, and they are shaping, the global economy. And so I think that, they really need to be able to, again, cement themselves and say, we are going to stand behind what we say, and we are going to support these LGBT creators.
Yeah. And I think things will turn around. I mean, I think
Yeah.
this sitting out one of the terms I think Glad used this is it said a lot of companies and brands are taking a back seat just to kind of retool and figure out, like, in this political landscape, what can we do moving forward? And so I tend to believe, perhaps
Agreed.
after the election 2025, things might actually improve.
Let's hope. We can only hope, right? We can only
Exactly.
see past the finish line. So hopefully that's where things go.
One of the other parts I really love about you is that you're one of the few that's in this world that we've been describing so far that spends time a lot of time on LinkedIn. And is that by accident, or is that a calculated move?
Yeah, so I think for me, I again kind of accident, I was back, job searching like everyone does on LinkedIn. And then I really started to slowly realize that, my posts were, I was kind of reaching this like saturation point with my Instagram and my TikTok kind of like plateauing a little bit. And I was really looking for what other channels can I have this, organic reach where I don't have to put any paid advertising behind it or boost it or anything like that. And I really started to notice that there was a lot of organic engagement and also just engagement in general from people,
Yeah.
professionals, creatives, just people that were job seeking, looking for resource, looking for community. And I think that, it's almost, I kind of call LinkedIn like the Twitter of the professional industry because, I feel like everyone on LinkedIn is definitely very open and honest about sharing their, true thoughts and stances and advice on careers and brands and what brands are doing and change makers. But I think for me, I've used it as a networking tool. I think we are only as strong as the people within our network, and we are only as strong as the people that we know. And so for me, I wouldn't have gotten to meet even half of the people that I know today. I have mentors today that I've met off of LinkedIn that I wouldn't have had if I wouldn't have put myself out there. I call LinkedIn I call it the global Rolodex because I really feel like it truly is a Rolodex. You
Yeah.
can really find anyone that you're really looking for, whether it's, marketing, PR, advertising, influencer marketing. You really have, the Rolodex at your fingertips.
Yeah, I tell a lot of my influencer friends because they spend so much time on the Instagram, TikTok space, and I'm always like, you should spend more time on LinkedIn because that's where the decision makers and the folks that control the purse strings and have the money, they're all there, and they're actually
Yeah.
very approachable. And you just have to find creative ways to be able to kind of get in front of them without being obtuse and saying, "I want your money."
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a strategy, you have to be really strategic when you're on LinkedIn, in terms
Yeah.
of like what are you really using all of the different tools and resources that LinkedIn has? Because as LinkedIn, I will say I wish they did a better job of just kind of like educating their users on all the different features that they have. And so, I've really had to teach myself. I've always kind of been in that camp of, I've got to, no one's going to come in here and teach me how to do it. So I've got to get in there and really get into those forums, get into those communities, even just ask people, right? Asking these top voices, asking a lot of these movers and shakers on LinkedIn, how did you get there, right? Like what's working for you? And honestly, truthfully, I don't think there is a lot of gatekeeping on LinkedIn nowadays. I feel like people are really willing to tell you, what they did to get themselves there. I mean, there's so many different kinds of webinars and audio events, even the group that you're in that we're in, the LGBT group, like there's just so many different resources and so many people at your fingertips.
Yeah, I agree. That's where I always call myself on a personal level the anti-influencer, only because everybody's so focused on certain media or certain platforms. And I tell them, no, we spend more time on LinkedIn and Twitter than anything else, and we get a lot of business through those channels.
Oh
But part
yeah,
of it is just because other folks haven't quite figured out that there is business to be found there. And so,
absolutely.
anyway, but that'll be temporary. Things are always evolving.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think LinkedIn truly will, even at the influencer marketing show that we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
LinkedIn was still a really hot topic. And a lot of the sessions that I went into, a lot of these, CEOs and VPs were really saying that LinkedIn has unlocked a lot of, opportunities for them in terms of even reaching creators and finding talent, right? I think, it's such an under leveraged tool. And I think companies and brands also can highlight, what's the company culture like? What are the things that they're supporting internally for their employees, right? I think it's no better way for a brand or a company to get visibility.
Yeah, this is great. And I'm on a personal level, I'll be in New York a lot this month for I have a Broadway husband, so we're going to be going. There's lots of Broadway he wants to catch up on before the Tonys,
I love
and
it.
then there's Pride. We're going to be there. We usually pick like one Pride to go to in June because there's so many. And
Yep.
last year was Toronto, and this year we're going to be closer to home. We're going to do New York Pride. So
Exciting.
who knows? We might have a chance to connect in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please. I mean, again, New York, no better pride, I think, in the world. There's so many amazing prides around the world, but I feel like nobody does it like New York. Well, the
I know.
parade, all the events, just the energy in the city, everyone that comes from all over. Again, it's just something that I never miss, and I always love doing it. So it's exciting.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, to share a bit of your story with our audience here. And like I said, look forward to connecting soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Matt.
Thank you.
So good.